Tribulation, day 70. And the world continues to spiral downwards. This weekend, we're all sitting here watching our country on the brink of an economic collapse. Out here in San Jose, California, it's freaking cold. In July, it's cold. Totally abnormal. And of course, across the rest of the country, the Midwest and the Eastern Coast, an oppressive heat wave. And then, the other day, over in Norway, some psycho blows up a government building and massacres 80 people. That's insanity. This stuff's been going on for a couple of decades, but, it's basically boiling over at this point. Monday, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but, as I've been saying, if we're sitting here thinking our government's going to come up with some kind of solution for the mess that we're in, forget about it. So Monday could be the start of, another set of dominoes falling. That song we're kind of listening to was a song that I made, and it's all about the tribulation. A lot of times I talk about just the actual stuff that's going on. But this morning, I'm just going to I'm going to try not to go as long as the last two video blogs, but, there's also a religious, and I'll just say, call it a sci-fi view on what's coming with this tribulation. If you check the blog, I added a couple of posts, videos from YouTube that kind of show you a little bit of what I'm going to touch on this morning. But, one aspect of the tribulation, of course, is the religious aspect. And it's basically three faiths that are driving this, which is the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, and the Islamic faith. I ran across a really trippy video on YouTube where the guy was kind of talking about the fulfillment of a end of the world prophecy. Basically, he was looking at Isaiah 9, and what that verse is talking about is when the northern tribes of Israel got completely destroyed because they no longer were doing things according to God's will. But basically, the Israelis, after they got destroyed, they said, "We will rebuild." And the guy kind of showed an eerie similarity to 9/11 and the Twin Towers being destroyed in America, saying that we will rebuild. So you got to check it out. But, what I think, is that all three of these religions seem to have a convergence point, which is happening in the next year or so, because all three kind of point to a day of judgment. Some call it the end of the world, a return of Jesus, or the prophet Muhammad. And, to me, even though all three religions are somewhat at odds with each other, at the same time, they all collaborate, and, they all seem to actually work together, to show that a certain set of events is going to be happening. So, what's also odd is, like in the video on YouTube, the guy kind of talks about the black stone over there in Mecca, which everybody believes is a meteorite that fell out of the skies. So that kind of ties in the second thing, which to me is the sci-fi aspect of this, which is, some kind of alien or some kind of being, angels, devils, whatever, interacting and bringing about calamity here on Earth. And, once again, you can go back to Genesis and the story right before the Tower of Babel, which the sons of God saw the daughters of men were beautiful, and they came down and they mated with them, creating hybrids. So I also put a video on the blog which kind of says, hey man, alien sightings have kind of skyrocketed in the last couple of years. Now, just so that you know, I'm going to say that I kind of believe in extraterrestrials and that they've had an involvement on Earth, because all the evidence seems to point that direction, and I really think that history as we know it is a bunch of cover-ups and manipulations and lies that like, especially when we're taught evolution, man, like, in some aspects, yeah, we do evolve and learn, but if you really look at our history, there's no explanation for races or different languages and how technology kind of sprang up all around the earth all at once, and civilizations like the Sumerians, all of a sudden had, everything from governments to schools. And, if you look at what they said, whether it's Egyptians or whoever, all these ancient cultures basically, point to some other beings showing them, giving them knowledge. So that could be another aspect of the tribulation, is that the cycle is being fulfilled, and, whether they never left or they're returning, whether they're from another planet or they're interdimensional beings, kind of hard to say. But, for some reason, there's a ring of truth to it all. And, another historic event was the final flight of our space shuttle program, and our president has now canceled, America's space program. So now, we definitely are sitting here saying, like, why the hell, nothing makes sense. The trip to the moon, anything, like, it just doesn't make sense, because we didn't seem to really have accomplished anything. So, one explanation could be that, yeah, we did. The hidden truth is that, like, when we went to the moon, we encountered somebody, and that's the real reality, is that there's somebody, kind of telling us what to do or not to do. But, our space program now is kind of kaput. But it begs us to look at, like, what is going on, like, are there other beings that are somehow manipulating events here on Earth? And just like, once again, going to the Bible, when the flood came, it's not as though nobody knew about the flood. I think it was quite the opposite, that everybody knew about the flood, and it was whether you believed it was coming and chose to do something about it. And I think the reality is a lot of people actually did believe and did do something about it. Noah's one of them. He built an ark. So, history to me is kind of a cycle. It keeps going round and round. The Mayan calendar kind of shows that same concept. So, that's kind of where we're at again. Like, with calamity coming our way, it's whether you choose to acknowledge it and do something about it, or you put your head in the sand and just go about your life. And you know what? If you do the head in the sand, I'm not really knocking you so much, but because then you can go about your daily life and you're not going to be all worried, or fearful or in despair or getting angry about things that you can't control. But for me personally, I'm not in the do nothing mode, and it's not easy to know what to do, because that's the feeling of helplessness and despair. And one thing I don't believe that we do want to do is just, go running out into the streets, mobilization, and violence, because I don't know how negativity is the solution to anything. But, that's kind of where we're at. This horrific thing that happened in Norway, another kind of a Timothy McVeigh thing. But, whether it's right extremists or left extremists, Christian extremists or Islamic extremists, one way or another, people are being pushed to the point of insanity, because, when you go out and massacre 80 people, man, there's no explanation for that. It's just pure evil. And, that's kind of part of the predictions of the end times, is that people will lose all sensibilities, and you'll wish that your kids weren't even born. And that's a sad day, because I just had a niece, a grandniece. My nephew's child was born into this world, and that was kind of on my mind, which was like, it's almost crazy bringing a kid into the world at this point. But, you know, life goes on. You know, you can't really control everything, and you really can't control whether you have a child or not. You know, you can try and control it, but what we found out is a lot of times it just doesn't really work that way. But, you know, children, if anything, they give us the ability to have hope even in the darkest of times, you know, because it's always worth fighting for the future, fighting for future generations, you know, so that our kids can have some kind of a better life. So, as strange as it is, even though it may be a horrific time to have kids, you know, over there in Africa, you know, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of kids just dying of starvation. And, you know, the Al-Qaeda Islamic types, they're not helping, they're blocking aid, you know, and the rest of the world just kind of stays silent. And that's how it is, you know, with you know, most of these tyrannical forces, you know, whether it was in China or Cambodia or wherever, you know, that North Korea, you know, that crazy son of a bitch running that country over there is starving everybody to death. And, you know, whether it's God or some kind of alien presence, you know, how long are they going to tolerate that? Or, you know, is there going to be a judgment that comes our way where it's like, you know, somebody says, man, it's time to start over, and step one is get rid of all these people that don't seem to have their acts together. But, you know, the hope is also, if you look in the Bible, you know, like the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where, you know, God basically said, I'm destroying these cities. And there's other examples of this type of thing, but, you know, basically Lot was bargaining with God, and, you know, he basically was saying, hey, if I can find 100 people that are good people, you know, will you stop the annihilation? And God was like, sure. And, you know, basically, you know, as unbelievable as it is, Lot kind of negotiated down to, I think it was, you know, maybe 1 or 2 good people. But you know what? The sad thing was he couldn't even find those people. And so the cities ended up being destroyed. And, you know, once again, I think that's maybe, you know, where we're at is it's time to stand and be counted. And, you know, a lot of people flap their lips about doing it, and they're not really serious. And, you know, no matter what you say or think, it isn't until you're actually confronted that you reach the moment where it's all on the line, especially your life, is where you'll figure out what you're made of, what your metal is, you know. You know, I've been there a couple of times, you know, where, you know, death is knocking at the door. And at least for me, I haven't really been fearful. But that's our nature, is to be afraid of death, to be afraid of confrontation. So, you know, the easy route is not to stand up. It's to lay down, you know. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Monday's going to be a big day. You know, all of us are waiting, trying to figure out, you know, what Washington's going to do, but I already know they're not doing anything. And if they do something half-ass, who cares?